Gangnam Nights, Neon Rain. Episode 3, Lanterns in the Mist. The morning headlines. Morning arrives quietly over Seoul. The first light slips between rows of glass towers before spilling across the Han River, painting the water with soft ribbons of gold. Delivery scooters buzz through narrow streets. Cafes unlock their doors. The smell of freshly baked pastries drifts into the cool autumn air while commuters hurry towards subway stations, coffee cups warming tired hands. Gangnam is awake long before the sun fully claims the sky. Inside a modest apartment overlooking the city, Amara Ellis is already standing by the window. She cradles a mug of Blue Mountain coffee her mother mailed from Jamaica months ago, saving it for mornings that matter. This feels like one of them. The city stretches before her in layers of steel, glass, and distant mountains. It is beautiful and complicated. Her phone vibrates. Once. Then again. Then 5 more times. She doesn't move immediately. She already knows what she'll find. When she finally unlocks the screen, notifications flood the display. Fashion blogs. Entertainment pages. Anonymous discussion forums. The same photograph. Again. A blurry image of her standing beside Seo Ji-woo beneath a rain-soaked umbrella. The headline changes every few hours. The story never does. One headline asks who the woman beside Kangjin's young executive is. Another calls her a mystery designer appearing once again. A third wonders whether the encounter is coincidence or something more secretive. Amara sighs. She doesn't read the comments anymore. People who have never met her seem strangely confident about who she is. Some call her ambitious. Others call her manipulative. A few insist she must already be famous. None of them know she still worries about rent. None of them know she sometimes falls asleep listening to recordings of rain in St. Elizabeth because Seoul still feels too quiet at night. She places the phone face down on the table. Today, she refuses to let strangers decide how her day begins. Instead, she opens her sketchbook. Blank paper has never judged anyone. Her pencil moves instinctively. Long flowing silhouettes. Sharp tailored jackets. Elegant dresses inspired by the curves of the Blue Mountains and the rhythm of Seoul after dark. Without realizing it, she sketches lanterns. Dozens of them. Soft circles of light floating through mist. She pauses. Why lanterns? She smiles to herself. Maybe because light always looks more beautiful after rain. A gentle knock interrupts her thoughts. 3 quiet taps. Not hurried. Not uncertain. Comfortably familiar. Amara opens the door. Mrs. Park stands outside, holding a small insulated container and wearing the same warm smile that somehow makes every hallway feel less lonely. Mrs. Park explains with a playful shrug that she has once again made too much pumpkin porridge. Amara laughs, already familiar with the excuse. Mrs. Park smiles wider, acknowledging that her extra food always seems to find its way to Amara's table. The older woman steps inside without ceremony, setting breakfast on the small dining table as though she'd been doing it for years. As steam curls gently into the air, Mrs. Park notes softly that the day ahead will be long. Amara wonders whether Mrs. Park has seen the news. Mrs. Park nods, reminding her that newspapers rarely tell the whole story. She admits quietly that she is tired of being talked about. Mrs. Park's response surprises her. The older woman sees the attention as proof that people are noticing. She reaches across the table, pats Amara's hand, and encourages her to let them talk while she keeps creating. Outside, another train glides across the city. Another morning begins. And somewhere beyond the towers of Gangnam, Seo Ji-woo is waking to headlines of his own. The city believes it knows their story. Neither of them realizes. The real story hasn't even begun. A studio full of dreams. Morning traffic moves like a river through Gangnam. Glass towers catch the sunlight, reflecting pieces of the sky onto crowded sidewalks below. Cyclists weave between cafes. Office workers hurry across crosswalks with one eye on the traffic lights and the other on their phones. Inside the subway, Amara stands quietly among strangers. Nobody speaks. Yet she can feel the occasional glance lingering a little longer than before. One university student nudges her friend. Another discreetly lifts a phone before thinking better of it. Amara keeps her eyes on the route map above the train doors. Mrs. Park's encouragement echoes in her mind, reminding Amara to let others talk while she keeps creating. The train slows. The familiar announcement rings through the carriage. Doors slide open. She steps onto the platform and disappears into the morning crowd. The fashion studio occupies the fourth floor of a renovated warehouse tucked between a coffee roastery and a design gallery. Unlike the glittering luxury boutiques along Gangnam's main streets, this building feels alive. Music drifts from open windows. Mannequins stand half-dressed near work tables. Rolls of linen, silk, and cotton lean against exposed brick walls. Someone laughs in the distance. Someone else argues passionately over fabric samples. It feels real. Amara smiles before she even reaches the door. Home isn't always a place. Sometimes. It's where your hands remember what they're made to do. Ji-woo, one of the assistant designers, greets Amara with bright enthusiasm. Ji-woo teases her about surviving another day of unwanted internet fame. Amara laughs, admitting she has only barely made it through. Ji-woo hands her iced tea, certain that coffee alone will not be enough for the day ahead. Amara agrees that Ji-woo is probably right. Around them, sewing machines hum steadily. Steam rises from pressing tables. Sketches cover nearly every available surface. Some are breathtaking. Others are little more than rough ideas waiting for courage. Amara loves every single one. Her supervisor, Director Han, appears carrying several garment bags over one shoulder. She is elegant without trying, calm without being distant. The kind of woman who rarely raises her voice because she never has to. Director Han draws Amara aside for a private conversation. They step into the conference room overlooking the studio floor. Sunlight spills across mood boards covered in photographs from Seoul Fashion Week. Director Han folds her hands. She has been watching Amara's work closely. She praises the cleaner stitching, stronger silhouettes, and growing confidence in Amara's designs. For a moment, Amara doesn't know what to say. Praise still surprises her. Director Han slides a folder across the table. Inside are photographs of Amara's latest collection. Earth tones. Flowing fabrics. Subtle Caribbean influences blended with modern Korean tailoring. Director Han says the designs feel different and, after searching for the right word, describes them as honest. Amara smiles softly, recognizing home in the honest lines of her designs. Director Han approves and encourages her never to stop bringing herself into the work, reminding her that fashion already has enough copies and needs distinct voices. Back on the studio floor, Amara returns to her work table. She runs her fingertips across deep emerald fabric. Next to it lies warm mustard linen, then burnt orange silk. The colors remind her of Jamaica after rainfall. Green hills. Red earth. Golden evening light. She begins sketching almost immediately. Not because inspiration has arrived, because it never really left. Across the room, two interns whisper. They speculate that Amara is the woman from the photograph. Amara hears every word. She doesn't react. Instead, she adjusts a pattern, pins another sleeve, marks another measurement. The scissors glide cleanly through fabric. Work has always been louder than gossip. Director Han watches quietly from her office window. One assistant steps beside her. The assistant wonders whether all the attention around Amara worries Director Han. After 30 years in fashion, Director Han knows the people who survive are not the loudest, but the ones who keep working. Watching Amara's patient hands, Director Han feels certain she will be just fine. Outside, rain clouds begin gathering above Seoul once more. Far across Gangnam, Ji-woo sits alone in a boardroom, preparing for a meeting he already knows he won't enjoy. The storm that follows them has not ended. It has only moved indoors. Pressure inside Kangjin Group. The boardroom on the 39th floor of Kangjin Group overlooked nearly all of Seoul. From this height, the city looked peaceful. Traffic became ribbons of silver. The Han River shimmered beneath the late morning sun. Apartment towers stood like carefully arranged dominoes stretching toward distant mountains. It was a beautiful illusion. Inside the room, nothing felt peaceful. Ji-woo sat quietly near the end of the polished walnut table, his hands folded neatly before him. 8 executives surrounded him. Every face carried years of experience. Every smile carried calculation. The meeting had officially been called to discuss an overseas investment. No one believed that was the real reason. Chairman Kang entered last. Conversation stopped immediately. Even after decades in business, his presence still changed the temperature of a room. He sat, opened a folder, then looked directly at his son. Chairman Kang delays the official agenda, making it clear that another matter must be addressed first. Several executives lowered their eyes. Others leaned forward almost imperceptibly. Chairman Kang placed a newspaper on the table. The photograph stared back at everyone. Ji-woo beneath a black umbrella. Amara beside him. Rain surrounding both of them. The image had become impossible to escape. He assumes Ji-woo has already seen the photograph and presses him for an explanation. Ji-woo confirms that he has and answers with understated calm, reducing the scandal to the simple fact that it had been raining. A few nervous chuckles escaped around the table. Chairman Kang did not smile. Chairman Kang warns that the media and shareholders will not treat the photograph as harmless. Ji-woo points out that the media is willing to believe many things. His father counters that those stories can still influence shareholders. Silence settled once more. Chairman Kang folded his glasses carefully. Chairman Kang reminds the room that Kangjin Group has spent 50 years building its reputation. He insists that careless speculation will not be allowed to damage it. Ji-woo met his father's eyes without hostility. Ji-woo maintains that he has done nothing inappropriate, even as his father stresses that appearances matter. Ji-woo glanced once toward the city outside. Ji-woo answers that truth matters as well. The sentence landed heavily. No one interrupted. Vice Chairman Choi finally cleared his throat. Vice Chairman Choi suggests issuing a statement, and another executive quickly recommends clarifying that there is no personal relationship so investors will calm down. Another executive nodded quickly. Ji-woo spoke before anyone else could continue. Ji-woo refuses to comment on another person's private life merely to satisfy public curiosity. One director frowned. Ji-woo looked around the table. He challenges the room to explain when protecting someone's dignity became controversial. No one answered. The meeting moved on. Budgets. Expansion plans. International partnerships. Yet the photograph remained on the table between them like an uninvited guest. Every discussion eventually circled back to it. Every pause reminded Ji-woo why he disliked boardrooms. They were places where numbers mattered more than people. After the meeting ended, executives drifted toward the elevators in quiet groups. Ji-woo stayed behind. He stood near the panoramic window overlooking Seoul. Footsteps approached. His assistant, Min-suk, handed him a tablet. Min-suk reports that media requests are increasing and that photographers have gathered downstairs, hoping Ji-woo will leave with Amara. Ji-woo answers with a faint smile, certain that the reporters will be disappointed. Outside the building, reporters already gathered behind security barriers. Camera lenses pointed toward every entrance. Questions floated through the air before anyone appeared. One headline had become dozens. One coincidence had become a national conversation. Ji-woo watched from above. Min-suk nodded. Ji-woo turned away from the window. From above, Ji-woo watches the reporters wait for a story and reflects that they rarely wait for the truth. Across the city, Amara stood in the fashion studio pinning the final seam of a jacket. Neither of them knew that powerful people were already discussing their futures in separate rooms. Neither realized that invisible threads had begun weaving their lives together long before they ever noticed each other. Outside, clouds gathered again over Gangnam. Not dark enough for rain. Not yet. Just enough to remind the city that every clear morning eventually gives way to another changing sky. Lantern Alley. By evening, the rain finally arrives. Not the fierce summer downpours Amara remembered from Jamaica. This rain is patient. Gentle. Almost polite. Tiny droplets drift through the cool Seoul air, turning neon signs into blurred paintings of crimson, sapphire, and gold. The city seems to slow beneath it. Office workers hurry towards subway stations. Street vendors pull clear plastic covers over their stalls. The smell of roasted chestnuts mingles with coffee and fresh bread. For the first time all day, Amara allows herself to breathe. She leaves the studio carrying only her sketchbook and a canvas tote. Director Han had insisted everyone go home early, warning that tired designing only creates mistakes for tomorrow. Amara had laughed. The advice sounded suspiciously like something Mrs. Park would say. Instead of taking the shortest route home, she wanders through streets she has never explored. Sometimes, getting lost is another way of learning a city. A narrow alley catches her attention. Strings of paper lanterns stretch overhead. Soft amber light spills onto rain-darkened stones. Tiny cafes hide between antique bookstores. An elderly man carefully brushes calligraphy onto handmade paper. A violinist plays beneath a small awning, the melody almost disappearing beneath the sound of rain. The alley feels untouched by time. Amara slows instinctively. This is beautiful. She opens her sketchbook. Without thinking, she begins drawing. Lanterns. Reflections. Umbrellas. People walking alone without appearing lonely. She becomes so absorbed in the page that she doesn't notice someone approaching. A calm, familiar voice breaks through her concentration, noticing how much her drawing has improved. She looks up. Seo Ji-woo stands a few steps away beneath a black umbrella. His suit jacket is damp around the shoulders. He smiles politely. Not confidently. Almost. Carefully. Amara closes the sketchbook halfway. Amara teases that a billionaire should know how to avoid getting wet. He glances toward the rain. Ji-woo admits that he tried. He adds that the rain clearly disagreed. She laughs before she can stop herself. For several seconds, neither speaks. The silence isn't uncomfortable. It simply exists. Ji-woo notices the sketchbook. Ji-woo asks for the sketchbook with a quiet gesture, and Amara hands it to him. He turns the pages slowly. Fashion sketches. Fabric notes. Quick portraits of strangers riding the subway. Tiny studies of coffee cups. Doorways. Mountains. Then, the lanterns. He studies the newest page and recognizes that she has drawn the light itself. Amara tilts her head. Amara is unsure what he means. Ji-woo explains that most people would draw the lantern itself. What stands out to him is that Amara has drawn what the lantern does. She blinks. No one has ever described her work that way. Amara tells him he notices strange things. Ji-woo smiles faintly, acknowledging that others have said the same. He returns the sketchbook carefully and encourages her to keep drawing. She studies him for a moment. Amara realizes he does care about the headlines, though not in the way she expected. Ji-woo admits that he cares. But he does not believe strangers should be allowed to decide who either of them is. His answer settles gently between them. Simple. Without performance. Rain grows slightly heavier. Neither moves. A nearby cafe owner steps outside carrying 2 steaming cups and gently points out that they have both been standing in the rain long enough. He offers them coffee with a warm smile. Ji-woo glances toward Amara. Amara accepts with a shrug, deciding that standing in the rain deserves a reward. Moments later, they sit beneath the cafe's small covered patio. The lanterns sway softly above them. People pass by without paying much attention. For the first time since the photograph appeared, they feel almost invisible. Ji-woo quietly wonders what brought Amara to Korea. Amara offers him the honest answer. Ji-woo does. Amara wraps both hands around her coffee. Amara begins by remembering her childhood. Her grandmother used to sew all their Sunday dresses. She taught Amara that every stitch carried a memory. If someone rushed, people could see it. If someone cared, people could feel it. Amara believes she came to Korea searching for that feeling. After listening without interruption, Ji-woo recalls that his father always defined success as becoming impossible to replace. Amara wonders whether he believes that definition of success. Watching the lanterns reflect in the wet pavement, Ji-woo admits that he no longer knows. For the first time, they aren't discussing newspapers, or photographs, or rumors. They're simply 2 people talking. Outside. The rain continues falling. Inside Lantern Alley, something far quieter begins. Not romance. Not yet. Something stronger. Understanding. Neither of them realizes this conversation will become one of the moments they remember years later, not because anything dramatic happened, but because, for the first time, they saw each other without the city's expectations standing between them. The conversation they needed. The coffee grows cooler between them. Neither notices. Outside the cafe, Lantern Alley glows beneath rows of amber lights, each reflection stretching across the rain-darkened stones like ribbons of gold. Conversations drift softly from neighboring tables. Somewhere farther down the alley, a guitarist begins playing an old Korean ballad, the melody floating gently through the mist. For the first time since arriving in Seoul, Amara doesn't feel like a visitor. She feels present. Ji-woo wonders whether she had been afraid when the photograph appeared, and Amara answers with gentle humor before considering the question seriously. She looks at him. She doesn't answer immediately. Instead, she watches a little girl spinning beneath a transparent umbrella while her father pretends not to notice. When Amara finally answers, she admits that she had not been afraid of people talking, but of people no longer seeing her clearly. Ji-woo's brow furrows slightly. She looks down at her untouched coffee. She explains that she has worked too hard to become somebody and does not want to disappear inside someone else's story. Ji-woo absorbs every word. There is no interruption. No attempt to reassure her too quickly. Only understanding. Ji-woo admits that he understands the feeling. He explains that his surname often arrives before he does. People don't introduce themselves to Seo Ji-woo. They introduce themselves to Chairman Kang's son. Sometimes, he wonders whether anyone has ever truly met him. Amara studies him quietly. For the first time, she sees the loneliness behind the tailored suits. Amara suggests that he could leave the company, the expectations, and the life everyone has already planned for him. The words leave her mouth before she thinks about them. Ji-woo blinks. Ji-woo laughs softly, hearing how simple she makes it sound. Amara clarifies that she does not think it is simple, only possible. That answer lingers between them. Rain taps steadily against the cafe roof. The owner quietly refills their cups without interrupting. He smiles knowingly. Young people, he thinks. Always discovering that conversations are sometimes more important than destinations. Ji-woo wonders what Amara would do if fashion disappeared tomorrow. Amara answers without hesitation that she would teach. She explains that her grandmother taught sewing in their community because she believed everyone deserved to know how to create something with their own hands. Amara adds that beautiful things should be shared. Ji-woo can easily imagine her doing that. When she asks what he would do, he looks toward the lanterns again and admits that he honestly does not know. The admission surprises even him. Instead of feeling like a weakness, the uncertainty feels honest. A comfortable silence settles once more. Not empty. Comfortable. Two strangers slowly becoming friends. Neither realizes how rare that has become. Across the alley, an elderly street photographer adjusts an old film camera beneath a canvas umbrella. He notices them immediately. Not because they're famous. Because they are listening. Really listening. He raises the camera. Click. Neither Amara nor Ji-woo notices. Another photograph enters the world. This one. Very different from the first. Not accidental. Not scandalous. Simply two people sharing an honest conversation beneath lanterns after the rain. As the hour grows late, Amara thinks of Mrs. Park waiting at home. Ji-woo stands with her, aware that Min-suk will worry if he disappears much longer. Amara laughs at the thought of meeting the assistant who worries so faithfully. Ji-woo explains that she probably already has, describing him as the sort of person who apologizes for everything, even the weather. They both laugh. It is small. Natural. The kind of laughter impossible to fake. Outside the cafe, the rain has softened to a mist. They stand for a moment beneath the lanterns, reluctant to rush back into the noise of the city. Ji-woo admits that he enjoyed the evening. Amara admits she did too. They both recognize the rare simplicity of the night. No headlines, no photographers, no assumptions. For a brief moment, their eyes meet. Neither looks away immediately. Amara smiles before parting from him with the promise of seeing him somewhere around Seoul. Ji-woo hopes that she will. She turns and walks toward the subway entrance. Ji-woo watches until the crowd gently carries her from sight. Only then does he begin walking in the opposite direction. Above them, the lanterns continue glowing, as if quietly celebrating a beginning that neither of them yet understands. A promise left unspoken. The rain has almost stopped. Only tiny droplets cling to the lanterns now, sparkling like scattered stars suspended above Lantern Alley. The streets glisten beneath the evening lights, every reflection stretching longer as the last commuters disappear into the subway. Amara walks slowly. Not because she's tired. Because she doesn't want the evening to end. There was nothing extraordinary about it. No grand confession. No dramatic rescue. No impossible coincidence. Just a conversation. Yet somehow, it feels more significant than anything else that has happened since she arrived in Korea. She reaches the subway station and pauses before descending the stairs. Her phone vibrates. One message. Not from the media. Not from work. From an unfamiliar number. Ji-woo's message hopes she reached the station before the rain returned. Amara smiles despite herself. She types. Deletes. Types again. Amara replies that she made it just in time, adding that Mrs. Park would never forgive her for catching a cold. 3 dots appear almost immediately. Then disappear. Then return. Finally. Ji-woo responds that Mrs. Park sounds wise. Amara laughs softly. Amara explains that Mrs. Park believes soup can solve almost every problem. Another reply. Ji-woo shares that his own grandmother believed the same. She stops walking. For a moment. The busy station disappears around her. Perhaps they have more in common than either of them expected. Across the city, Ji-woo sits quietly in the back seat of his car. His driver waits patiently at a red light. Seoul flows past the windows in streaks of white and crimson. His phone rests in his hand. He isn't accustomed to texting. Most conversations in his world happen through assistants, meetings, or carefully written emails. Tonight feels refreshingly ordinary. He catches himself smiling. His driver notices in the rearview mirror. It is the first genuine smile he has seen from Ji-woo in weeks. He wisely says nothing. Amara steps out of the subway near her apartment. The neighborhood is quiet. Small restaurants are closing. A florist sweeps fallen petals from the sidewalk. An elderly couple shares one umbrella as they walk home. Simple moments. The kind she sketches. The kind she loves. When she reaches her building, she notices a warm light glowing beneath Mrs. Park's door. Before she can knock, the door opens. Amara grins when Mrs. Park opens the door, assuring her she survived the evening. Mrs. Park folds her arms and dryly acknowledges that much. Mrs. Park's playful suspicion quickly turns toward the unanswered question of how the evening went. Amara tries to avoid the implication. Mrs. Park presses gently for details about her evening. Amara admits that she and Ji-woo talked. Mrs. Park considers whether conversation was truly all that happened. Amara insists that it was. Mrs. Park smiles knowingly and reflects that the best relationships often begin with simple conversation. Amara blushes, still insisting it was not like that. Mrs. Park accepts the denial with a look that suggests she believes otherwise. Inside her apartment, Amara changes into comfortable clothes and places her sketchbook on the dining table. She flips to the page she started in Lantern Alley. Something is missing. She picks up her pencil. Slowly. She adds another figure beneath one umbrella. Not detailed enough to recognize. Just a silhouette. Someone standing beside another person instead of ahead of them. She studies the drawing. Then smiles. Sometimes art understands your heart before you do. Across Gangnam, Ji-woo stands alone on the balcony of his apartment. The rain has completely stopped. The city sparkles beneath him. His phone buzzes. A message from his father. A message from Chairman Kong summons him to his office at 8 the next morning. No explanation. None needed. Business had found him again. He slips the phone into his pocket. For once. His thoughts don't stay in the boardroom. They drift instead toward a lantern-lit alley. A cup of coffee. And a Jamaican designer who saw beauty in ordinary things. Far below, Seoul continues breathing through the night. Thousands of strangers cross paths without noticing one another. Some meetings last only seconds. Others quietly change the course of a lifetime. Amara and Ji-woo still believe they met by chance. Neither realizes that every step since the rain outside the bookstore has been leading them toward something much greater than coincidence. Some promises are spoken aloud. Others are made in silence. With honesty. with kindness, and with the quiet decision to keep showing up. Those are often the promises that last the longest. The city watches. Seoul awakens beneath a blanket of low clouds. The storm has moved on. Its memory lingers in puddles scattered along sidewalks, reflecting cafes, buses, and hurried footsteps. The city feels ordinary again. At least, from a distance. Inside a small coffee shop across from the fashion studio, two university students scroll through their phones. One suddenly freezes. One urges the other to look. Her friend leans closer. Another photograph. Not the famous umbrella picture. A new one. Taken in Lantern Alley. Amara and Ji-woo sit across from one another beneath hanging lanterns, smiling over coffee. No touching. No dramatic embrace. No secret kiss. Just conversation. Within minutes, the photograph begins traveling through social media. Posts claim that Amara and Ji-woo are together again. Others question whether the first photograph had been an accident at all. Many commenters ask who Amara really is. A few insist that she looks familiar. The comments multiply faster than anyone could possibly read them. Amara has no idea. She arrives at the studio carrying breakfast from the bakery downstairs. Ji-yoon notices her immediately. Ji-yoon tells Amara that she has gone viral again. Amara sighs, wishing she could at least finish breakfast first. Ji-yoon laughs and admires Amara's priorities. She places a phone on the table. The Lantern Alley photograph fills the screen. Amara studies it carefully. Unlike the first picture, this one feels different. There is no awkward surprise. No accidental timing. Only two people enjoying coffee. She smiles despite herself. Amara admits that the image is actually a nice photograph. Ji-yoon wonders whether Amara is angry. Amara sees no reason to be. To her, the photograph captured a real moment. Director Han steps onto the studio floor carrying several garment samples. She notices the photograph almost immediately. Director Han notes that the photograph has already made its way through the studio. The room grows quiet. Amara braces herself. Director Han simply nods. Rather than scolding anyone, she sees a practical advantage in the distraction. Everyone looks confused. She continues walking. She reasons that if the internet is discussing coffee, then it is not discussing Amara's work. With a faint smile, Director Han encourages the studio to give people something better to talk about. The studio erupts into relieved laughter. Within moments, the sound of sewing machines fills the room once more. Across the city, Ji-woo enters Kangjin Group headquarters through the underground parking garage. Even there, reporters are waiting. Flashes illuminate the concrete walls. They press him about whether the rumors are true. They demand to know who Amara Ellis is. They ask whether Kangjin will release a statement. Security escorts him quickly toward the elevators. Ji-woo never answers. Not because he has something to hide. Because Amara deserves privacy. Inside the executive elevator, Min-suk exhales heavily. Min-suk notices that the reporters are becoming more aggressive. Ji-woo adjusts his cuff. Ji-woo notes that they are doing their job. Min-suk counters that they are trying to make him uncomfortable. Ji-woo smiles faintly. Ji-woo admits with a faint smile that they are succeeding. Both men laugh quietly. Sometimes honesty requires very little explanation. Meanwhile, Mrs. Park stands outside her apartment building watering small flower boxes beneath the windows. Another resident approaches. Another resident mentions seeing Amara online. The resident assumes Amara must be famous now. Mrs. Park gently rejects that idea. To her, Amara is still the same young woman who forgets to eat lunch when she is designing. The neighbor laughs. The neighbor notices how protective Mrs. Park seems. Mrs. Park looks toward Amara's window. Mrs. Park explains that when someone comes to a new country alone, they should not have to feel alone. That evening, Amara returns home exhausted. She finds another container waiting outside her apartment. The handwritten note says the kimchi stew is for her because designing requires proper meals. No signature. None needed. Amara laughs. She carries it inside. In a city of nearly 10 million people, someone is looking after her. Far across Seoul, Ji-woo stands at his apartment window once again. The city stretches endlessly before him. He thinks about headlines, about board meetings, about expectations. Then, without realizing it, he finds himself wondering whether Amara remembered to eat dinner. The thought makes him smile. Not because it is romantic, because it is sincere. Sometimes affection begins long before love recognizes its own name. Outside, night settles over Gangnam once more. The city continues watching, but slowly. Very slowly. Amara and Ji-woo are learning that the only opinions that truly matter belong to the people who know the whole story. Lanterns in the mist. Night settles gently over Seoul. The city refuses to sleep. Neon signs bloom one after another, painting the streets with shades of sapphire, crimson, and gold. Restaurants fill with laughter. Street musicians claim familiar corners. Couples wander beneath umbrellas, even though the rain has stopped hours ago. Gangnam shines brightest after sunset. Amara has begun to understand why. Some cities reveal themselves during the day. Seoul waits until night. The fashion studio is almost empty. Only a few desk lamps remain lit across the enormous workspace. Fabric lies folded neatly. Dress forms stand like silent guardians beneath the soft lights. Amara finishes pinning the final sleeve onto a tailored jacket before stretching her tired shoulders. She glances at the clock. Nearly 10. Again. Director Han appears carrying 2 paper cups. Director Han suspected she would find Amara still working there. Amara smiles, recognizing how well Director Han knows her habits. She hands Amara a warm cup of tea. She warns that there comes a point when another hour of work becomes tomorrow's mistake. Amara laughs softly and notes that Mrs. Park says almost the same thing. Director Han smiles knowingly and agrees that Mrs. Park must be wise. They stand quietly overlooking the studio floor. Director Han finally speaks. Director Han observes that Amara is changing. Amara hopes the change is for the better. Director Han tells her that she has stopped designing only clothes. Amara is startled by the observation. Director Han explains that Amara is now designing stories. She gestures toward the latest sketches. Every garment carries traces of somewhere. The soft folds of Jamaican hills. The clean architecture of Seoul. The elegance of hanbok lines woven into Caribbean movement. Director Han reflects that people do not remember garments forever. Instead, they remember how those garments made them feel. Amara looks back down at her drawings. Perhaps that had always been her goal. She simply hadn't known how to describe it. Outside, Ji-woo walks alone. He has dismissed his driver for the evening. For once, he wants the city to choose his direction. Without meetings. Without schedules. Without security. His footsteps eventually bring him somewhere unexpected. Lantern Alley. The lanterns sway gently overhead. The violinist plays the same quiet melody. The cafe owner recognizes Ji-woo immediately and offers him his usual drink. Ji-woo smiles, amused that he has only been there once. The owner explains that some customers leave impressions. A steaming cup soon appears before him. He chooses the same table. the one beneath the lanterns. For several minutes, he simply watches people pass. Students, artists, office workers, tourists. Life continues. Unconcerned with headlines, he notices something tucked beneath the edge of the table. A small folded card, perhaps left behind by another customer. Curious, he opens it. On the front, a simple handwritten sentence. Beautiful conversations begin when people stop trying to impress one another. No name, no explanation, just words. He smiles. Somehow, they remind him of Amara. At that same moment, Amara steps out of the subway only a few streets away. She has taken the longer route home again, almost without realizing it. Her feet seem determined to wander. She reaches the entrance to Lantern Alley. Pauses. Smiles. Not tonight. Some memories deserve time to settle before they're revisited. She continues walking. Mrs. Park is waiting outside the apartment building. Not because she's worried, because she enjoys the evening air. Mrs. Park notices Amara worked late and studies her with a knowing warmth. She has counted 3 smiles since Amara turned the corner. She links her arm gently with Amara's. They walk toward the entrance together. Mrs. Park gently wonders whether Amara misses Jamaica. The question arrives softly. Amara looks toward the stars barely visible above Seoul's skyline. Amara admits that she misses it every day. Mrs. Park begins to point out that there is more to the feeling. Amara realizes that her heart is making room for another home. The older woman squeezes her arm. Mrs. Park reflects that hearts are remarkable that way. They are never truly full. They simply grow. Far across the city, Ji-woo stands on the rooftop terrace of Kangjin Group headquarters. The wind carries the scent of rain once more. Tomorrow will bring another board meeting, another newspaper, another decision. Yet somehow, none of those things feel as heavy tonight. He looks toward the endless lights of Seoul. Somewhere among millions of windows, Amara is probably sketching, probably forgetting to eat dinner, probably chasing another impossible idea. He smiles quietly. For the first time in years, tomorrow feels like something to anticipate instead of endure. Above the city, the lanterns continue glowing, invisible from this distance. Yet somehow, their light seems to reach everywhere. Some stories begin with fireworks. Others begin with storms. This one began with rain, then coffee, then honesty. And now, with 2 people slowly discovering that the brightest paths are rarely the loudest ones. The city still watches. The rumors have not disappeared. Neither has the uncertainty. But something stronger has taken root beneath all the noise. Trust. And like every lantern that continues shining after the rain, it grows brighter with time. End of episode 3, Lanterns in the Mist. To be continued.